This is a bit of a follow-up to last week's video on the last petrol supercar. That one focused on the future of the internal combustion engine in our daily lives, but this one is all about EVs. Now, us petrolheads have kind of been conditioned to almost fear our electrified future and electric vehicles in general, but in this video I want to lay out why I personally aren't afraid of electric cars and why I don't think you should be either. Let me start off by saying that I am very much a petrol head. I own a 3-litre supercharged V6 as my daily driver, I own a Suzuki SV650S motorbike, and I'm inevitably going to buy an MX-5 this year for a track car project that I'll also probably personally turbocharge. I think I'm a fully paid up member of the club, but I would also happily drive an EV, especially as my full daily, go to the shops, little trips around town type vehicles, because there are a lot of good reasons why. Let's start with the obvious one. Electric vehicles are cheaper to run. Specifically, while the upfront cost can often be a bit higher, although I'll talk about that more in a second, the charging cost, or the fill-up cost if you like, is significantly less. Charging a Tesla Model 3 standard range from completely dead to 100% full, which is roughly 60 kilowatt hours, well, even charging that for 100% charge at a motorway services with a fast charger, that's only going to set you back around £25. Compare that to my S4 that I love so much, well, that would set me back around £100 for a complete fill-up at a motorway services. But what if you can park at a Tesla supercharger instead? Well, that's significantly cheaper. It only costs £17 for a complete fill-up, assuming that you don't have any compulsory or any better deal with Tesla for, say, free supercharging instead. If, however, you can plug it in at home and do the same charge, well, that would only cost you around £9, assuming a standard energy tariff, or if you have solar, it's literally free. You could make the argument that you would need to fill up that Tesla more often than I would need to fill up my S4. And you would be right. The Tesla, especially at motorway mileage, is likely to get between 200 and 250 miles of range out of that charge, whereas my S4 should get 400 to 450. But that's still only about half the price, and bearing in mind that that's at motorway speeds. EVs are more efficient in town driving than they are at motorway speeds, which is the opposite of internal combustion engine cars. So my S4 can get 400, 450 miles of range out of the tank on the motorway, but the second that I start driving it in and around town, stopping at roundabouts and traffic lights, well, then you get it down to more like 300, 350. Whereas the Tesla is likely to get better range and closer to the 278 mile claimed range from the WLTP cycle. On top of the fuel cost reduction, there's also next to no maintenance costs, as there's next to no maintenance that you generally need to do on EVs. There's no oil changes for your engine, there's no spark plugs or coil packs that can fail or need replacing, or timing chains that can write off your entire car. There's no transmission flushes, and often you don't even need to replace things like brake pads and discs, as most EV owners tend to not really use their brakes all that much in favor of literally letting the car charge its own battery from slowing down. And then there's the practicality. Because the S4 has a longitudinally mounted engine and gearbox and all-wheel drive, it has a pretty large transmission tunnel. My leg is currently resting up against it, and there's a pretty big hump in the back seat. But thanks to EVs generally having a skateboard-type design with batteries on the floor, you generally have a pretty flat floor, meaning more space, and often, especially because the motors sit directly on the driveline, and they're not all that much bigger than the sports differential you can get in this, you often have more luggage and carrying capacity space as well. The Tesla Model 3 I've mentioned not only has a large rear boot, but also a boot in the front as well, which can be useful for things like carrying your charging cables. Coming back to the note of price, interestingly, since I've been talking about the Tesla Model 3 standard range so much, I thought I would look up how much one of those costs, and then look up the petrol equivalents. From BMW, the obvious example is the 3 Series, and I wanted to try and match at least close to the same power level. So the closest BMW 3 Series you can buy right now, brand new, is the 330e, the plug-in hybrid that has 184 horsepower from the internal combustion engine, the I think 2-litre turbo petrol, and then 113 horsepower from the electric motor for a total of 292. That costs you around £40,000. What about the Tesla? Pretty much the same. Of course, that is without options. You can obviously option the Tesla up with the larger battery or the performance pack version, so there are things that you can do, but you could also option up the 3 Series to be an M3, and that's way more money. From Audi, they also have the A4, which is what my car is based on, and if you're buying one of those, the highest end engine you get in that is a 2-litre TFSI turbo petrol, which produces 265 horsepower rather than the 320 or so that the Tesla has. And that, without options, is about £42,000, although with options is well over 50. Obviously, if you want an Audi A3 or BMW 1 Series or Mercedes A-Class, then yeah, there's not a great option for you, especially compared to both power and range and price right now. But honestly, give it a few months. Manufacturers are launching new models constantly. There's almost a new model every week or month, and so it's probably a good idea to hold off a bit, and I guarantee you there will be a new option that will be relatively similar and a good option for that sort of class of buyer in the not too distant future. There are also other benefits of going electric. If you can plug in at home, then you can use your car as a literal battery backup for your house. You can also have it act as grid scale energy storage, which the grid will pay you to use. And especially if you have solar, that lets you utilize your solar energy a lot better, again, acting like a battery backup. And so that helps you, well, effectively make more money from your solar, get more out of it. There's also the software updates, which companies like Tesla are pioneering, that can often give you more performance or more range from your car for free. Like, it's insane. Late last year, Tesla launched an update for the Model 3, Model Y that gave 10 miles more real-world range through a software update. Can you imagine having your car download an update on its own, and then you come back the next time you go to the shops and you have 10 miles more range and potentially more performance to go with it? It's absolutely insane. Often the sort of performance-specific upgrades are something you pay a bit of extra money for. In fact, Tesla has a number of these options, including performance boosts and the ludicrous mode, which often just unlocks existing, well, more power from your existing hardware, which is absolutely insane as well. I cannot go to Audi and have them remap this car for me. I could take it to a third-party shop and they will do that, but that's very much an out-of-warranty experience. But with someone like Tesla, it's par for the course. Also, especially for a city runabout or daily driver, EVs are incredibly fun to drive. The instant torque makes you a red light king, and blasting out of junctions or roundabouts makes you smile no matter what's happening. EVs are incredibly fun to daily, and also thanks to significantly less moving parts, also more reliable. Yes, EVs are pretty expensive right now, and for someone like me who wouldn't look twice at buying or leasing a new car right now, it's gonna be a while before an EV plants itself firmly long-term on my drive. But if you are the sort of person who is buying or leasing new cars, could be very interesting. Obviously, everything that I've talked about in terms of the benefits have been the stuff that's available right now. I haven't mentioned anything about the self-driving capabilities that will be rolling out over the next 5 to 10 years. And honestly, the next 5 to 10 years are going to be really exciting because the infrastructure, especially for charging, will improve. The vehicles themselves will improve. They'll get cheaper, they'll get faster, they'll get more range, quicker charging. And so it's going to be very, very exciting to see how that progresses. Overall, I'm really excited for EVs to become more mainstream, more available, especially on the second-hand market, where I tend to do most of my shopping. They won't replace your weekend toy or pride and joy anytime soon, but they will make your commute to work just that little bit more fun and easy. Now with that said, those are my thoughts, but I would love to hear yours in the comments down below. What do you think about our electrified future? Is an EV in your near future or a bit further off? Would you have a sort of daily driver EV you could take to work and then a fun car as well? Or would you prefer to just have one car that does everything? And if so, what would that be? Otherwise, I will leave some more videos on the end cards for you to check out. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel with a bell notification icon, by the way, because I have a Renault Zoe coming from Renault to do a full review very shortly. So like I said, make sure you're subscribed to see that. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you all in the next video.